Dave, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, good. Feeling meditative?
Yeah.
Yeah. You put me onto that last time we spoke, so I think I've just stayed in that state. But and you also put me on to this philosopher I hadn't heard of actually, Etienne Gilson, whose book Painting and Reality you've been reading. And so I picked up a copy and I worked through some of the key ideas in that text in anticipation of this conversation with you. So Gilson, makes this point about physical existence and that not all art has physical existence. Paintings, unlike music, are physical objects. One can own a painting, but one cannot own a sonata in the same material sense. However, when it comes to aesthetic existence, so different to physical existence, painting and music are much the same, or paintings and music. They have a discontinuous mode of existence which lasts as long as an aesthetic experience of perception lasts. So we often talk about the aesthetic experience of perception of the viewer. We've done that a few times, I think, in these talks. But today I'd like to change the focus and inquire into the aesthetic experience of you as the artist. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So, it'd be awkward if you had said no.
I'll see what I can say about that. Yeah.
Well, can you tell us of the experience you have with your art when it's under construction?
Yeah. So, thanks for being here, everyone. Lots of familiar faces. So, I suppose it starts with the last painting you've just done, or I've just done, and then that's usually the sometimes thinking about the next painting already from the painting you're about to finish, and that's almost like the inspiration to start the next one.
Yeah.
So over the years of making paintings of objects, I'm slowly collecting objects as well, and for this series of pictures I've started looking at, or before this, like this was maybe the first series, I suppose, before I knew it was going to be a series, and starting with some objects that are either natural, potentially man-made, or natural with a man-made or a machine applied to it, like a piece of wood that's cut. Now it's got a hard edge, but the texture through it's still natural. So I'm slowly getting to answer the question. So I'm looking at those things and then setting them up, and when two things sort of start talking to each other, whether it's like texture or the shape, but often the texture, if there's like a shiny piece of metal and then you put it next to a piece of wood or a rough rock, they can kind of start to say something. I don't know what they're saying, but saying something. And then as far as thinking of the composition, like that's like more important than what the objects are saying. I think that's like where the main thing that starts, and then the two sort of have to work together before I start a painting. So I'll set them up. If it's a larger one, I'll do a little study, but if it's not, I'll just go straight to the painting, but I'll draw it on the linen first. I used to draw it on paper and then transfer it, but I don't, there's no advantage to that for me anymore.
Okay.
So yeah, just draw directly on the linen, and then do an underpainting in a warm tone, I suppose, and then lots of layers of paint. Lots of time between the layers as far as thinking about them, which is kind of just part of my schedule. I can't paint every day, but it gives me time to think about what they look like and how to go about painting them. So within the object, going back to Etienne talking about paintings being objects, there's a lot of time. Not that I'm saying, they take a long time to paint, but there is a lot of time in them, but they're still,
So it sounds,
which is significant for me, I think.
sounds like you paint in succession. Is that the case, or do you kind of start a few, come back
Usually one at a time.
to completion, and then
Yeah.
wow.
Although I can, on the smaller ones, I can move things over in my studio, but a larger one like the emerald stone one that you see at that wall, yeah, I can only fit that one in my studio, and it's complex enough that keeps me busy enough. Yeah.
Okay. And do you tend to paint from objects strictly, or do you paint from photographs or imagination, memory?
For still lifes, yeah, just straight from the objects. When I was learning, certainly like trying to make it look as much as like the thing that I'm painting. But as I'm more comfortable with the process, I can make things up, which is starting to get a bit more fun. So it's the reference is there in real life, but I can make decisions where it's not what it actually looks like the painting of the circle with it's called penumbra.
Mm-hmm.
You can't actually see a void there, like you can see the back of that semi-sphere. But I wanted to paint it in this way that it kind of looked like a void.
Mm-hmm.
So I was making that. I was using my imagination to paint that.
Yeah, so there's an object that you're referencing, but then you're altering it as you're painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And so with this whole, idea of paintings as objects, but then, so you're painting this object as in a new object, which is the painting.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at an object. Are you having a kind of dual experience of like, do you get an affinity with the object that you're rendering while also painting? Or is it all about the painting?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I suppose, yeah, before I start painting, it is about making an affinity. Hello. With the objects and what they might mean, setting it up. So, the elemental quality of some of these objects in this series can speak about things, and putting them together, I'm like, getting an affinity with them. And then once the painting gets underway, it's more about the picture, the painting, and that working as a painting. However, through that process, there's certainly moments where, you're contemplating what it could mean, or, I don't know, you see not a reflection, a bit of shiny part of a gold leaf or whatever it is. And that can start making you think about something. So it is thinking about what the objects mean, but the technical part of it, if you're making a picture, it is focusing on like what the painting's doing as a painting.
Okay, so it's like this, what I'm hearing you described as a shift of attention over time, where your initial attention and focus is on the object itself, and then you kind of transfer that into the painting. So by the end of it, you're not really looking at the object too much, but it's all infused in the work.
I think, that does happen, towards the end of the painting, Yeah,
okay. So Gilson, he goes on to say, as actually existing substances, paintings are individuals. I like this idea. Beings that cannot be divided into parts without ceasing to be the particular beings that they are. So that's, it's rather, well, I don't know if it's sentimental, but it highlights just how special the works themselves are, right? So can you tell us about, you pointed out a couple of the paintings, but do you want to talk about some of the individual beings in this exhibition?
Yeah.
Tell us about them
while we're here.
Yeah.
Well, a good one to speak to that about is the drift. It's a piece of driftwood that I found on the beach down in Ballina, and it was, I don't know, maybe like 6 months after those massive floods down there, and there was all this driftwood along the beach, like not little bits, like half a tree. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know if council put them up onto the sandbank, but they were all sort of like, a lot of it was sort of into the sandbank now, whether it just got washed there by the water or whether it was moved there. So this like destruction of these massive floods, bringing all this stuff out, and then it kind of coming back into like essentially build back the sand dunes. So they were like, there was all this destruction from the flood, but then this driftwood was stopping the erosion. So this kind of like made me to start thinking about, you know, like this balance in nature of cycles and destruction and life and all that. And yeah, and then as far as like the gesture of this wood, like I spent a lot of time getting the right piece of wood.
Okay.
There was a bigger one, but I couldn't carry it, so that would be ideal. But maybe next time. Yeah, it's got this twist in it. It's kind of like a gesture of a limb or something of a life form.
Yeah, and that's
almost a human, but yeah, and then just giving respect to you know, to nature by thinking, okay, this is a live thing that's, you know, disrupted and broken.
Yeah, sure. It's one of two, right, that I guess is untouched by man, if you could say that one and the one over there. Because the others, even though they have wood, they've been treated in some way. Yeah,
although that was cut from,
of course, yeah.
You know, ranges in a national park, so I probably shouldn't have taken it, but
So you actually took it.
Yeah.
You didn't just take a photo.
It was in the car park area. It wasn't like deep in the bush.
Did you bring it back, or?
Yeah. Oh no, it's now in our backyard, so it's got a new life, I suppose.
Yeah, good. And so, how do they sort of contrast to, let's say, the beings with more man-made objects?
Yeah. Well, I suppose the two logs there, and they're arranged, you know, somewhat. I'm thinking about how they're arranged. But all the other ones, yeah, you're choosing objects and putting them together yourself. So there is, I don't know what the word is, but
yeah, there's an arrangement or assemblage or whatever one wants to say. But so there's kind of like a dual aspect there of they're already pieces that have been treated, but then you're retreating them in the way that you're arranging them before you paint.
Yeah. And then some are just rocks, or which, you know, are untreated. Although rocks have a life as well. Yeah, they're like, you know, erode and get rounder or break and stuff as well. There's a little bit of chipped off, like piece of that rock, which is kind of nice. It makes a little shadow.
Okay, and you captured the shadow.
Yeah, on the top there's like just this little bit that's chipped off, and it's got this tiny little shadow which makes a shape. And those little things are the things that go, oh yeah, that's interesting for me as a painter.
That's great. So Gilson kept hitting me with these gems of what I say profound simplicity. He says, painting is an art of space, but its products endure in time. He continues, problems arise concerning the various ways in which their being is affected by duration. And that sort of troubled me a bit because it had me thinking about these physical objects. And yes, they're an art of space and they endure in time, but they're like these frozen objects that they're sort of forever trapped in their self-identity. So like any of these paintings here, only, you know, maintain their individuality and selfhood so long as they don't materially change, right? And that seems counter to how the universe works, because things are always under a process of change. Like if I remain trapped in my self-identity, then I wouldn't grow, I would die from stasis. And yet what we expect of the painting is that they just remain fixed.
Yeah.
Like even the objects that you paint don't remain fixed. You move them around, they'll decay. But, you know, what are your thoughts on this expectation that we have of the frozen existence of paintings?
Yeah, that's interesting. Because, yeah, it is like a friction of like, I don't know how to answer that. So like, yeah, it's almost like, so what's the point of making a painting if it doesn't align with, I forget the word you used, but natural.
Yeah, I guess like the processes of change.
Yeah, the processes of change, because
Yeah.
that's like I'm accepting those that I live within those processes of change, and then making a painting that is all these objects that hold that, and you're using the word like trapped or something like that, and that is like a something I have thought about in another way, like when I'm thinking about so we were at a conference the other day, an art teacher conference, and Lindy Lee did the keynote, and she was talking about Andy. She was talking about these paintings where she was just putting she was meditating and then picking up the brush and then just like, psh, and it was this sort of like, and there's a tradition of it, and it's like everything everything in the universe up until that moment is in that.
In that stroke.
In that picture, it's not a picture. It's not a picture that particular kind of painting, but in that painting.
Yeah.
So I really love that. I used to be obsessed with Liu Fan. Does anyone know Liu Fan? Yeah. So like, I'm still heaps like, I love that, but then I'm making these pictures that are like almost the opposite. So I do have that in mind as I'm painting. Something similar to what you just were describing.
Yeah, and I guess, Gilson's kind of taken me on this journey. He's like, the paintings are individual beings, and now I'm like, they're trapped, And I'm really stressed coming to this talk today. But interestingly, so the name of your exhibition, even though we're talking about these frozen objects, is actually squaring the circle, right? So, and that bears some origin to the practice of alchemy. So transformation of lead into gold, but more so the inner dimension to that practice, which is a kind of transformation of self. Can you say a bit about the name and sort of what it means for you?
Yes, I can do that. So when you make a painting, not for every painter, but I'm getting to answer the question, but I've gone a long way around.
Take your time, we have time.
You're like making the painting, and then the name, so I've made all the paintings, haven't named them, I need to name them, and then the show needs a name. So Squaring the Circle was the last sort of cherry on the top. But so it does run through all of them. And Squaring the Circle, I came across it through reading a book called, what was it called? It's called like Creative Alchemy and Hermetic Philosophy or something like that. And the lady who wrote it, she's kind of making correspondences through like, the history of Hermeticism in the West, and then like aligning it with like Vedic philosophy and stuff like that as well. And she, in that book, that's where I came across this idea of squaring the circle. And there was a chap called Paracelsus, I think his name was. It was like I don't know, was he a scientist or a natural philosopher? A physician in the Renaissance. So he used the term squaring the circle, which in antiquity is some kind of like mathematical problem about, which I don't understand, but something to do with like how many times you can do a circle with a square, something like that. So he used the term squaring the circle as a metaphor for this process of alchemy and personal change, which is the kind of goal of, hermetic practice. Or,
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which would talk to any many traditions of that sort of meditative process.
Yeah. And speaking of,
so it's kind of like a metaphor for that process, which comes through when you're making pictures as a goal.
Yeah, right. And are you anticipating the viewer will have a kind of transformation?
That's it's a bit bold to expect that, but
anticipate, not expect.
But I know that when we've got work in our house, the work I enjoy the most is when you're just living your life, and then you glance up, and you're like, oh yeah, you get this thought, and it gives you like potentially an affect. I don't know if there is an affect, but
at least one.
Yeah, at least one. So hopefully if people spend time with one picture as long enough, then it will
evoke something.
Evoke something. I don't know what, but it could be an intellectual thing, or it could be an emotional thing. It doesn't bother me either way, but hopefully it has some sort of
some impact.
Yeah, some impact that cannot be explained. Hopefully.
I want to come back to meditative practice, because you mentioned to me when we spoke last time that you meditate every day.
Yeah.
So I resonate with that. I've recently started meditating every day. Can you tell us what practice you use, like what style of meditation you do? So I'm not in any way I'm a novice, let's just say that. So I've tried a few different ways to go about it. My son woke me up this morning, because I slept in, so I didn't get to meditate this morning. But I meditated down by the river today, which is a bit different. Okay.
Because you're not in your usual space. So I usually do it at the same time of day every morning.
Okay. Stretch
and then meditate. There's something about body-mind connection going on there.
Yeah, sure.
And then meditating. So
is it a particular school of meditation? Like, is it?
I'm open. I'll read things, try it for a month or two.
Yeah.
Read something, try it again, and then go back to other ones. I've been enjoying some Taoist meditations where there's lots of visualization about internal organs. There's a real simple one called the inner smile, and you just this instruction sounds weird, it sounds crazy, but you do it and it's like, oh, that makes sense. You breathe, so you've got eyes closed, and you breathe in through your eyes. Now, that doesn't make sense, but you do it, and you just feel like this thing going through. And it's like inner smile, and it's just about building chi in your body.
That's great. So you kind of read and you come across a practice, and then you try it out for a bit.
Yeah.
Would you say the meditative practice, daily practice, has influenced the work at all?
I'd say it would have, because I think I started doing it regularly in January last year. And I think that one of these paintings I would have painted around that time, maybe March or something. And it's a funny one, meditation, because it doesn't do much. But
I think that's the whole point.
But if you get used to doing it, it might be anything. It might not be meditation, but you get used to doing something, and then you stop it. You notice it then. Yeah. Almost sort of thing. So sure, I think it would have an impact. It certainly makes you it can make you aware of the decisions you're making. So rather on a break between doing a section of the painting and then having a break. Previously, I might be like, oh, just get my phone out, and then distracted, and then that's gonna have some kind of impact on the painting.
Yeah, right.
But just having that focus to not pick up your phone between breaks, and water the garden instead or something.
That's great. I imagine you, kind of meditative. I'm romanticizing it.
Yeah,
in my mind.
Okay.
And you're meditating, and then you go and you put a stroke on the work, and you might meditate a bit more, water the garden, and come back.
That'd be
do
nice.
That. And then I see the work, it's complete, and it kind of attains this state of nirvana. And then I don't feel so bad about it being trapped anymore.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. It's like a kind of zenith of the meditative practice. So, yeah, it's good. I mean, the works feel very calm, when I look at them. That's how they affect me.
They make me calm having done them.
Okay.
If I don't get into the studio, I'll be less calm.
Okay. and So is it a calmness from you that you feel you sort of imbue into the work, or?
I don't know.
Or you're just calm because they're done and you were able to like hang them?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. We don't need to know. I was just curious. So you mentioned a few, different practices when we were chatting in preparation for this talk, and I've listed a few here: Hermeticism, you mentioned before, Taoism, the I Ching, the Vedas, and discursive meditation. Was there anyone in particular that was really relevant for this particular exhibition?
I'm not sure, but going back to like the process of doing the pictures and looking at the objects, it is kind of like a discursive meditation. Looking at the objects, looking at the painting, because it's not about clearing your mind, it's about meditating on a theme or an idea or a symbol. But at the same time you have to work and make decisions in material existence. So it's not just discursive meditation making them, but so that process is sort of that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I did look into that, discursive or concept of discursive meditation, which for me seemed a bit different because my understanding, or at least practice of meditation, is you try to clear your mind. But in this case, you're actually focusing quite intently on a particular object or thing.
Yeah.
I looked at a couple of these other traditions as well. So Hermeticism and the text, the Kybalion, being a central text. And I picked this out. So in that text, the third principle, that of vibration, states nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. And the fourth principle, same text, that of polarity, states that everything is dual, everything has poles, and everything has its pair of opposites. Now, on the other hand, in the Tao Te Ching, which is a key text of Taoism, so Lao Tzu writes, something undifferentiated was born before heaven and earth, still and silent, standing alone and unchanging, going through cycles unending, able to be mother to the world. I do not know its name, I label it the way, or the Tao. And I find these two ideas somewhat at odds with each other, right? And they're from different traditions. So in the Kybalion, everything is dual, nothing rests. And in the Tao Te Ching, the way is one, so it's not dual, it's unified, and it's still and silent. So when as you encounter these different ideas and theories and practices, do you ever feel a need to have to resolve these tensions?
Yeah, but it's not going to happen quickly. So, so it's not going to happen quickly, I suppose. So I just find them interesting to read and think about. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. The reason I asked the question is because I've also, I guess, picked up a few of these texts over the years. But for me, they have this kind of they create this tension, like I have to resolve it.
Yeah, right.
But maybe I need to take up painting.
Yeah.
It's like they're resolved beautifully in the works.
But there's certainly, there is a difference. And then there's it's like the similar difference between that brush stroke with the whole universe in it to the more Western tradition of making paintings that are of things and that are often grand, that think they're gonna last forever, but really they are also in a process. They're gonna decay. Just a longer cycle. It's just gonna take a long time. Yeah. Whereas that brush stroke with the idea of the universe being in that brush stroke is already acknowledging that it's impermanent. Yeah, it's impermanent. Yeah.
No, look, that's great.
I think you can have both. I think maybe not. I don't know.
No, and I would agree. It's look, impermanence, tension, probably good points to wrap up. But this painting here, it's not in the show.
No.
Can you tell us about this one?
So this is self-portrait.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wearing a hat in
Yes.
that one.
I see.
And I try and do like a self-portrait every couple of years.
Okay.
And it was time, and I did one.
Okay. And you've entered it into the Brisbane Portrait Prize.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have. See how it goes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, that's good. Congratulations on that entry. Congratulations on the exhibition. Thank you so much for having a chat with me today.
Yeah, thanks. It was good to do.
I'd like to open the floor to anyone who has comments, questions, musings.
Am I allowed to ask something, David?
Sure.
They're not signed.
On the back they are.
Oh,
It feels though like you put a name on it and it becomes part of the picture.
okay. I just wondered why. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Hey,
I guess I've got a
Keeman.
question,
Yeah.
about the idea of alchemy.
Yeah.
Do you think that painting does, in a sense, in a contemporary lens, become that? So I wanted to ask you how you think the work's changed when the viewer approaches it, because I think while you've curated these objects as a scene, and part of it is almost virtual because you've changed elements and you've done all of this, the viewer kind of brings their own lived experience to that. So do you think that there's a relationship between that and the way that you're working in the studio?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if I fully understand the specific question, but yeah, like talking to Alan's idea of being the pictures are trapped and they're not changing. That when they do change is when a different person is in front of it, and then the life of the painting will change because of the interaction by that certain person. And yeah, they're not didactic at all. Like what the different objects could mean will be there in culture, and our ideas about what things are will just be in those objects. So yeah, when the viewer comes to it, that's when a meaning might occur, but it might not. I don't mind. Yeah.
And I guess
Did that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
I think paintings I've seen before, but every time you see it again, it feels different.
Yeah, because you're different.
Yeah, there's kind
in
of
some way.
magical power.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you can't anticipate who the viewer's going to be, or what when they're going to look, or what they're going to do. So you just do what you do.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to ask something very similar, so thank you. Just because each time you spoke it or used the word trapped, it kind of irritated me.
That's great. That's why I'm here for.
Because yes, it is this frozen world, but it is this world
Yes.
that we can go into, and whereas the word trapped kind of gives the sense of being captured or restricted or something. When for a viewer, and the thing I was going to say is that they change all the time. They change over the years. They will change with light. They'll change in space. Obviously with the viewer.
Yes.
But they're worlds to go into and explore. So in that sense, they're not trapped.
Yeah, and
There's just this little, like the brushstroke of the universe in it, the universe that you can go and explore. So
Maybe
I'd rather see it in that other way of it being expansive as opposed to closed.
yeah, absolutely.
Maybe they're trapped if they're not getting looked at, and then they're looked at, and then it's a portal for the expansion or something.
Yeah, it's a great way to think about it. And I think that distinction was made, right, in Gilson's work. So the being trapped is in kind of the materiality of it, especially with paintings and the way that they're maintained over time, like over hundreds of years. They're intended to just look the exact same way that they did 300 or 400 years before. But you're quite right in terms of the aesthetic experience, that's always different. And it's different for each person, and even that same person over time. So, yeah, I would agree. So, but I like what you said. We can liberate them by looking at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And so maybe the viewer liberates them.
Yes.
Because the viewer always brings something to the exploration of the work.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got a question.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, running at a tangent, because we've been talking about the content of the work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know in the history of your arriving at this place of accomplishment that you've got to, because you paint in I guess an academic fashion, a traditional fashion, what drew you to that tradition of academic painting and when?
Well, I'm not so much drawn to the tradition of it, but the process of it is like a great challenge that I enjoyed. And I think I came to it, so I wanted to do paintings before I went to university, and then I was making, bigger paintings that were like more abstract and expression type based things. And then I went to uni and ended up doing sculpture intermedia, stopped studying, worked, went overseas, and then looking at museums in Europe, I was like, oh, that's right, I love painting. It got beaten out of me in university. And then but like from that being paralyzed by too much thought, and then I don't know, it was a thing to try and do.
So the acquisition of these skills that we see here, can you tell us sort of how did you?
I think I was like rubbing up against the idea that it's not the time to be making pictures that look like things, which was sort of the vibe at university, in the contemporary, not the contemporary, but like there's lots of ideas in contemporary art that through the history of modernism and stuff that opened painting up in a great way, and I suppose I was running with that, and then I thought, oh well, why? So I'd sort of try and make pictures that look like stuff, because I do love lots of old paintings from Western history, and these aren't that. So it's more of the process of going through it, and just it is learnable. So reading lots of older books, like written in sort of like the end of the 19th century, there's a lot of good books that just talk about the process. You can take what you can from it and not, but I think it was like something that I could grasp and some tools I could use to try and say something rather than not having any tools and sort of fumbling, I guess.
Gentlemen, and you still have your question?
Lady first.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm just curious, you've got this amazing ability to create balanced composition in your images and their design, but there's these precarious little objects in it that are about to fall over or roll off. So even though they're really balanced, there's certain aspects of a couple of things that are just about to topple, but they don't.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could expand on that.
Sure. So, the actual composition, thanks for saying they're balanced, because that's like, if that's not happening, I'm not starting the painting, because that's a it's contained and it's a painting, it's not, it has to work in that way before anything else. Some of my favourite painters now are like paint absolutely nothing like this for those very reasons, and the way they manipulate paint and the paint surface and that sort of thing. So those little moments that I'm thinking about in those paintings, I'm hoping are like in my paintings, but it's not what the whole painting is. I'm looking for moments of tension, I guess, in the picture. So is calm, but then like hopefully there's some moments of tension that keeps you looking and then keeps you wondering what's happening in them, I suppose. So they're still, but the potential for movement is there.
So they're not trapped. Moving. Yes, please.
David, your work is really precise and particular. It looks precise and particular. I'm wondering if the method of producing that matches that. Are you particular about routine? Do you have a time of day? Do you have a place? What is your routine if you have one?
Yeah, I'm much better in the morning, clear head to do it then than like after the day's happened kind of thing. I can't concentrate as well. And yeah, particular about, colours that I'm using and those mixtures, and I won't try and do too much in one day.
So come midday, you're done, are you, every day?
No, I can do like morning and afternoon, but start in the morning, yeah, ideally.
Speaking of the morning, so is the light in the works natural light, or do you?
No, ideally that's great. I love working from natural light, like a diffuse natural light. But this is studio light.
Okay.
Just like high, what do they call it? High color reference. High color reference image. Like high CRI lighting, so it's like feels more natural than just like any old light.
Okay.
And yeah, having experience painting from natural light, I've got that.
In your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
One more.
One more, okay, Jeff.
I need a drink.
Yeah. And not really.
Well, you don't have to answer this.
Yeah, please go.
No, I just wanted to tease out something you were starting to talk about going to university and sort of feeling that, painting, making a painting of something wasn't really what was required these days, and then you implied though that you sort of reacted to that, and I just wondered whether you can say where you wound up. I mean, would you say you're still in touch with the discourse of contemporary art, but you just worked out where you sit in a different way from what you were being told at university, or?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about where you sit then?
Yeah, I'll try to. There's like a lot of contemporary art that I love, like a lot. But I think I might have just like matured a bit or something, and wasn't like, didn't have like, I listed a little bit, but like not as much of an adolescent attitude as I did while I was at university. And I think just being around, like-minded people that are, that age, you like enjoy not following the rules, and
but
then
do these sit somewhere in the contemporary discourse?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That's not for me to decide. I don't think.
It's the art critic's job, right?